Today I want to highlight one of the best slow dancing in a burning room solos I've heard John do in a very long time. I was sent this performance over on my Instagram and was asked to actually make a video talking about the tone because there is just this crazy sustained note that John gets that does definitely remind me of Out of My Mind during Where the Light Is during this specific solo. So I'm going to break down the gear that John was using and kind of how he got this tone, because it's really why the 2019 World Tour to me is honestly the peak of John's tone, or my favorite tone that he has ever gotten for that lead outro solo tone specifically, because it's absolutely insane, and this is just another really great example of it. So let's take a listen to this outro solo, and then we're going to talk about all of the gear afterwards. All right, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is just such a great example of why I love the 2019 World Tour's guitar tone. The tone that John was going for, just a little bit more higher gain. The solo tone's punchy, it's a bit more almost aggressive sounding, and it's why I love it so much. So the kind of big bulk of the tone that John was getting is thanks to a concept that we talked about a lot on the channel before called the third overdrive. And what I mean by that is John's normal gain stacking kind of thing for solo tones is usually the Klon Centaur and the TS10, and then maybe like the Keeley Katana in front of it to push everything. But really, he generally will gain stack only two overdrive pedals together, being the TS10 and Klon Centaur. But during the 2019 World Tour, especially for these bigger outro solos, think of the Belief intro as well, things like that, John would stack on a third overdrive that was placed after both the TS10 and the Klon Centaur, regardless of what order those two pedals were in. And then it was this third overdrive that really pushed everything to a whole nother level, and that is exactly what he was doing for this performance. So this performance was from Copenhagen, which was the third leg of the 2019 World Tour, and the exact order for pedals that John had for the drives for the third leg was Klon Centaur into TS10 into Shin's Music Dumbleloid B. Pretty much all of my favorite 2019 World Tour tones include the Dumbleloid B, that back third of the tour in Europe. was so killer for guitar tones. It was absolutely insane. So for this specific performance, we don't have a great angle of John actually stepping on pedals to completely confirm what is going on. However, just based on my just knowledge and the amount of footage I've watched over, the years, especially of this tour, I have a pretty good idea of what John would have been doing. Now, what I am pretty confident John would have done for this solo is stack the Klon Centaur into the TS-10 into the drive side of the Dumbleloid B. You can hear the Dumbleloid B's tone in this solo. It's very specific to this leg of the tour when John was using that pedal for his solo tone. You can hear that this pedal is definitely in the mix. It's not that standard TS-10 Klon Centaur lead tone. That's 100% guarantee. What else you can hear during this solo is the delay that John was using, and I'm pretty sure it would have been the Providence Delay 80s, but what John also would do is dual stack the Delay 80s with the Providence Chrono Delay as well, and have two kind of different delays going on at the same time. So it's very possible he had both going on, but you mainly just hear the one repeats, which to me would probably have been the Delay 80s. Now, just to kind of help back up what I'm saying John was doing, we're going to go to the Amsterdam performance at the Ziggo Dome during the 2019 World Tour, where you can actually really clearly see what John was stepping on for the outro solo, and it was Klon Centaur TS-10 drive side of the Shins Music Dumbleloid B, stacking both the Providence Delay 80s and the Chrono Delay as well. And I think it's a very similar setup here as to what we are seeing for the Copenhagen performance, and the tones both with the 64 Strat as well are very, very similar. But the overall guitar tone is extremely similar, which is also making me believe that is exactly what John is doing. Now, with this Copenhagen performance too, we have that really big sustained note where John is controlling the feedback through his amplifiers, which are all running insanely loud with all of these drive pedals on, kind of doing almost like a Gary Moore sort of thing where he's holding that note for just, quite a long time. And I had some people ask me when I was sent this, oh, is this have to do with like a compressor or something like that? And it's nothing to do with the compressor. This is John's amplifiers running insanely loud, lots of gain, and just knowing how to control that feedback to get that extra long sustain. And it's really cool. It's a very soulful solo that John did. And like I said, it's one of my favorite ones that I've heard in a long time. I don't believe I'd actually listened to this exact solo performance before. So it's a really cool one just to highlight on the channel and discuss as well. And just speaking of the amplifiers, just to mention and cover it in this video, we have the PRS J-Mod, the Two-Rock John Mayer Signature, and Dumble Steel String Singer 002, all three of them on together. Those amplifiers being obviously a huge key component of this tone from the solo. Extremely high headroom, extremely loud. It's a recipe for just really incredible guitar tone, at least in my opinion. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if there are ever any solo tones you guys want to see me actually cover and dissect in a little bit more detail in this way, let me know in the comments, or you can DM it to me over on Instagram as well. It's a way to get a hold of me, when I have time to kind of sort through some of the messages I get and things like that, but it's another way to send me stuff to cover in YouTube videos. But appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Hope this was a fun one. Take care, guys. See you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.